Settle yourself now, wherever you may be, and let your breathing grow calm and steady. Feel the softness beneath you, the quiet that surrounds you, and allow your mind to drift far away from the modern world. Tonight, I will take you back, many centuries across time, to an age so often cloaked in myth and legend, the time of the Vikings. But we will leave behind the simple tales of mighty warriors conquering with ease, of glorious raids and triumphant loot. Instead, we will walk gently into the deeper truths of their lives, a place where harsh necessity and unthinkable risk defined their voyages. Raiding, to many Norsemen, was not simply an adventure. It was a final gamble when hunger and hardship drove them to the sea. Over the next 2 hours, I invite you to listen, slowly and quietly, to a world of creaking ships, cold winds, and hard choices. You will hear of men who carried axes in trembling hands, of cities that stood in their path, and of stories twisted by fear into legend. We will move together through 4 gentle chapters. First, through the daily horror of a raid, then through the siege of Paris itself, next through the dark tales of Viking cruelty, and finally into the realm of the chieftains whose plunder made them kings. Breathe softly and allow each word to flow over you, neither rushed nor loud, letting the steady rhythm lull you as you imagine the beating of the northern waves. When you are ready, we will begin. Segment 1. You're on a raiding ship. What happens is worse than you expect. Imagine yourself standing upon the deck of a long, narrow ship, carved with dragon heads and patterned shields. It rocks gently at first, but soon begins to lurch with the swell of a cold, unforgiving sea. The air is thick with the scent of damp wool, fish oil, and unwashed bodies. You are a raider now, but there is no heroic fanfare here. You wear a tunic that has been patched and repatched, its fabric rough against your skin. Your boots are crusted with salt from many days at sea, soaked through and cold. Each wave that crashes over the side sends a shiver straight to your bones. The men beside you, your shipmates, your neighbors, even your kin, are thin with hunger. The supplies ran low days ago, and now the food is little more than hard bread and stale water. You hear them shift restlessly, scratching at lice, eyes hollow with a mixture of fear and determination. Their voices are hushed. Even their jokes sound forced, as though no one truly believes in laughter here. The sea itself is relentless. Every moment brings a new spray of cold salt, leaving your lips cracked and your throat raw. You taste the brine every time you breathe. The boards of the ship creak and groan underfoot, and you begin to notice how your hands have blistered from gripping the oars. There is no glory in this rowing. It is a monotonous rhythm that grinds down your spirit, hour after hour, with nothing but the gray sky above to break the sameness. As you approach the unknown shore, the unease becomes heavy, as if it might settle on your shoulders like a cloak of lead. You do not know what awaits beyond the dunes. A rich village with easy plunder, perhaps, or perhaps a band of defenders, armed and waiting. Or even nothing at all, a burned husk, already stripped by another crew. Somewhere on the breeze, there is a hint of wood smoke. Land is near. The ship grows quiet. The only sounds now the gentle slap of waves against its hull and the faint rustle of shields being lifted into place. You swallow hard, tasting the sourness of fear in the back of your mouth. The oars are drawn in, and you drift toward the shore, your heart pounding a rhythm that feels too loud, too fast. Someone whispers a prayer, but you can barely hear it over the blood that rushes in your ears. And then, the moment of landing comes. You leap into water up to your knees, boots filling with icy brine, legs clumsy after days afloat. You feel the earth shift underfoot, the safety of solid land, but no safety at all. Ahead, a settlement, quiet and still. smoke from chimneys. Perhaps they see you coming, perhaps they wait, weapons in hand. You push forward, each step heavy with the weight of dread. Beside you, your shipmates shout, voices cracking. Axes rise, swords gleam dully in the morning light. There is no turning back. What happens next is worse than you imagined. The screaming begins, a high, raw sound that tears the morning in two. You move through mud and straw, through smoke and flame, not thinking of riches, only of surviving these first minutes. A man falls at your feet. You do not know if he is friend or foe. You step over him, heart pounding, breathing ragged, wishing for it all to end. This is the true face of a Viking raid, not the songs, not the shining heroes, but fear, filth, confusion, and the knowledge that the next moment might be your last. Take a breath now. Feel the stillness of the modern world around you, far from that chaos, far from that uncertainty. Let the images soften, like a distant dream. We will pause here for just a moment before moving on. Yes, segment 2, the sacking of Paris, Ragnar or myth. Settle your thoughts once more and allow the images of that first chaotic landing to fade into the background. The sea falls away, the distant cries grow silent, and your mind drifts instead to the mighty city of Paris, a name that even then carried a weight of grandeur. It is the middle of the 9th century, and word spreads across the north that Paris is rich beyond imagining. Its churches, its merchants, its storehouses of grain and wine, all glimmer in the minds of Viking leaders as a prize worthy of any risk. Among them is a figure whose name you have heard, passed through countless retellings, reshaped by legend, Ragnar. The sagas speak of him as bold, cunning, larger than life. But step softly here, for the truth is tangled. Imagine yourself sailing with him, or someone very much like him, for the sources disagree, guiding a fleet upriver, past meadows and farms, past villages left smoking in their wake. The river itself becomes a road, winding through the heart of Francia, drawing them closer to a city girded with walls and watchful eyes. As you draw near, the ships pause in the current. The oarsmen rest their tired hands. The air grows thick with uncertainty. Paris is no simple village. Its stone towers loom above the water. Its gates are shut, its defenders strong. You can almost feel the tension ripple through the ranks. Will these walls hold? They would try again and again, over weeks, battering against the city with every trick they knew. They built floating platforms. They fired arrows. They tried to bribe their way in, hoping the defenders would break. Yet Paris endured, sometimes by brute strength, sometimes by desperate prayer. The chronicles say there was plague in the Viking camp, sickness taking men one by one as they lay in tents of wet wool, coughing, weak, cold to the bone. Imagine that, to have survived the sea, to have faced down enemy blades, only to be undone by a fever, spreading through your companions like a silent enemy. Still, they did not leave. They demanded tribute, the so-called Danegeld, from a city too exhausted to fight forever. The Franks paid, in coin that must have weighed heavy with shame. In the end, the Vikings left, richer than before, their sails heavy with stolen silver and strange stories. Was Ragnar truly there? Historians will argue as long as stories are told. The name in the chronicles may have been a stand-in for many chieftains, a kind of symbol for all those iron-hearted men. Yet someone led those ships. Someone faced down a great city and forced it to bow. Now, in the hush of this moment, reflect on how fragile any great place can be when pressed by desperate men with little to lose. And reflect, too, on how the voices of legend can drown out the quieter truths, the stench of the sick, the fear of the defenders, the hopelessness of farmers caught between a fortress and an enemy. Let your breathing stay soft and easy as these images settle. Picture the river again, winding slowly away, the long ships retreating into the morning mist. A city stands, battered but alive, and far to the north. Word of its tribute will travel like wildfire. Segment 3. Blood Eagle or Propaganda. Untangling Viking Torture. Myths. Breathe easily now, and allow the mist of the river to lift, the stones of Paris fading behind you. We drift onward, deeper into the shadows of Viking legend, where fear and fascination have long been intertwined. You have surely heard the stories that the Vikings performed a terrible ritual, the Blood Eagle, a nightmarish execution that tore its victims open. These tales have been told and retold, woven through centuries with a mixture of awe and revulsion. But step carefully here, for the truth is murkier than any saga might admit. Imagine yourself hearing such a story as a frightened monk centuries ago. The Northmen are coming, they say. They flay their victims alive. They carve wings from flesh and offer them to their gods. How easy it would be to believe anything of men who arrived in the night, axes in hand. Yet, as you look closer, through the eyes of modern scholarship, you find something more subtle and perhaps more human. The so-called Blood Eagle is recorded in a handful of medieval texts, often centuries after the events they claim to describe. Its language is poetic, full of kennings and riddles difficult to pin down. Could these have been metaphors misunderstood? Was a punishment described in flowery terms that later chroniclers took literally? There is no doubt that the Vikings knew cruelty. They executed prisoners, they humiliated rivals, they even sacrificed captives in times of desperation. But the specific gruesome image of a ribcage splayed into wings may have been an exaggeration born of fear, or Christian propaganda, eager to paint these pagan raiders as monsters beyond all hope of mercy. Still, one cannot entirely dismiss the possibility. In an age where honor and revenge walked hand in hand, where a chieftain might need to send a message of terrifying power, perhaps something like the Blood Eagle was carried out once or twice, burned into memory precisely because it was so shocking. Archaeologists have searched the soil for proof, yet no bones bear clear evidence of such ritual butchery. The sagas are silent or ambiguous, their language dancing between poetry and horror. So, the Blood Eagle remains a ghost of an idea, half myth, half terror, hovering over Viking history like a dark bird on the wind. As you rest here, let the images settle gently. The truth, as so often in history, may lie somewhere in the quiet middle. That brutality was real, but its shape has been twisted by centuries of rumor and fear. Feel how calm your breathing has become, and remember the steadiness of your own world, where stories can be studied and understood without dread. The legends of cruelty lose their grip, fading into the background like a half-forgotten dream. Segment 4. When Jarls became kings, how raiding made. Viking elites, rich and untouchable. Let your thoughts flow onward now, drifting away from the darkness of Blood Eagles and the shadows of myth. Instead, look toward those who profited, who rose above the chaos to carve out power that would last long after their raiding days ended. Picture a chieftain, a jarl, standing upon a worn wooden deck, counting the treasure stack before him. Rings of silver, brooches of gold, the shimmering coins of faraway lands. These were not only trophies, but the seeds of power scattered across a world that valued strength above all else. You might imagine this jarl returning home, sails filled with the cool wind of triumph, as crowds gather on the shore. In those moments, the hardship of the voyage is forgotten. The hunger, the filth, the fear, all drowned beneath the glimmer of wealth and the hush of awestruck voices. This returning warrior becomes more than a leader of men. With silver enough to feed many mouths, with stories enough to inspire many hearts, he can buy loyalty, land, even the hands of skilled craftsmen to build his hall higher, grander, stronger than any before. Slowly, the role of the Jarl changes. The rough edges of the raider polish into the polished confidence of a ruler. From chieftain to king, the path is smoothed by treasure, by fame, by the subtle power of fear. For who would challenge a man who has survived the ocean, who has conquered cities, who has faced down foreign armies and returned with ships laden with loot? The sagas remember these men with a kind of hushed reverence. Harold Fairhair, who unified much of Norway, built his alliances on gifts and promises drawn from raiding wealth. Other kings, too, took the plunder of distant lands and spun it into political gold, weaving alliances that might outlast a single lifetime. And so, raiding, that grim, desperate act born of hunger and necessity, transformed itself into something enduring. It became the crucible from which kings were forged. Their rule was built on fear, yes, but also on the gratitude of those they protected. They could afford to be generous, to feed their followers, to reward loyalty and punish betrayal. Imagine their halls, bright with tapestries and iron-bound chests overflowing with coins. Children ran beneath painted beams. Old warriors sat near the hearth, and merchants traded spices and silks that had traveled halfway across the known world. All of it, in some way, came from the sea, from the terror and the danger that made the Viking name so heavy in the mouths of their neighbors. Yet within those same halls, there would still be an echo of the old fear, a subtle knowledge that the next poor harvest, the next weak king, might drive men once again to the ships, that the sea would call them back with its promise of plunder and its threat of death. Breathe gently now and let that image linger. Think of the way power grows, from desperation through violence to wealth to law, and how fragile even a king's rule could be in a world shaped by wind and wave. As we close this chapter, allow your mind to rest, carried softly through these stories of chieftains turned kings. Feel the steady calm of your own world, far from their struggles, and hold it close. Breathe in once more, softly, and let it out as slowly as you can. Let the distant echoes of axes and sails fade from your mind. Feel your body relax, safe and still, far from the harshness of those times. You have traveled tonight through the hidden truths of Viking raiding, beyond the saga poems and the stories of glorious conquest, into something more fragile, more human. You saw the fear that crept along the benches of a raiding ship, the hunger that drove men to gamble everything for a handful of silver. You stood before the mighty walls of Paris, felt the tension of a city under siege, and heard the rumors that twisted cruelty into dark legend. And you witnessed how, through treasure and terror, the Jarls rose to become kings, reshaping their world from the spoils of distant shores. Let these images soften in your mind now, like the slow fading of a candle's glow. There is no need to hold on to them tightly. History, after all, is a place to visit, not to remain. It reminds us of how far we have come, of the comfort and calm of modern life, where your safety is not measured by an axe on your belt or a shield on your arm. Feel gratitude, if you wish, for the simple peace of your own bed, the quiet, steady beat of your heart, free from the pounding fear of distant drums. No wind howls through your walls tonight. No raider's cry threatens your sleep. Instead, there is only the hush of the evening, the soft rhythm of your breathing, and the gentle sense of security that surrounds you. Allow yourself, if you choose, to drift into sleep, carrying with you only what you wish to remember. The knowledge, the stories, the understanding of lives so different, yet bound by the same human hopes and fears. Let your mind grow calm, like a sea after a long storm, and know that you are safe here. Rest well, traveler of time. May your dreams be gentle and your night be quiet.